Hello friends, welcome to EduTalk. So today I have with me Mr. Vikram Kumar Reddy from Hyderabad, down south. He's a civil engineer by profession, or not by profession, rather by degree I would say. And he has done his graduation from BITS Hyderabad in 2012, long way back. And after that, he doesn't have any work experience. He has been preparing wholly and solely for various government exams. He has given interviews for RBI in 2018 and for NABARD in 2019. And this year, he has cleared RBI Grade B, the exam which was conducted in 2021. So first of all, Vikram, congratulations. So finally, after almost 9 years, you made it to your dream job.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Vikram. And I would also like to highlight to our viewers that Vikram is having 9 gap years without having work experience. So there are a lot of aspirants who are worried about their gap years. So I would say that I think rather than worrying about gap years, you should prepare on more advanced basis, on more hard basis, so that no, you can take interview out of the equation itself. But anyways, a lot of people with gap years have been selected this year. So I don't think they are averse to people with gap years. That is for sure. Otherwise, not so many people would have got selected. But anyways, let's go back to our agenda. That is this. Let's discuss with Vikram about his strategy, about his journey. So Vikram, 9 years, which is a lot of time, almost prime years of our youth, I would say. And you have been preparing, you have been slogging all through these 9 years to get your dream job. What kept you going during these 9 years?
Yes, sir. It's been a long journey, and of course, there were a lot of ups and downs. Mostly downs, very few ups. But because I've right from the beginning, I wanted to work in the public sector, and that's why I kept motivating myself because I believed in myself. It's just that I have to improve myself, rectify my mistakes, and work harder and better. And I thought if I do this, I will one day or the other be able to get selected.
That's a great thinking, Vikram. And finally, you have made it. So I know it must have been a big relief.
Yes, sir. Relief is the right word. Big relief.
Big relief, yes. Vikram, so you already have been into this exam preparation journey for 9 years, and you've already given interview for RBI in 2018 and NABARD in 2019. So were there any previous learnings from your past attempts that helped you prepare in a right way this time?
Yes, sir, definitely. Because when I gave my RBI interview in 2018 or 2019, that was my first interview after my college days, college campus placements. So I did not have any interview idea what they expect from a candidate and how I should answer a question and all. But that interview actually taught me more, and followed by the NABARD interview in 2019 also. Although I tried to improve myself from RBI interview in 2018 to NABARD interview in 2019, but still there were a lot of things that I had to work on, and I tried to work on them. Yeah.
Good. And from your experience now, what would be your suggestion for a fresher? How much time he or she needs to contribute to prepare for RBI in a very well-planned manner? And on the other side, what is the time for a person that he or she should contribute if he is preparing for the second or the third time?
Yes, sir. If a person is a fresher, I would say at least 6 months. At least 6 months. And if a person has already given an attempt, and if he or she has a material ready in their hands, then I think 3 to 4 months is enough. But at least 6 months is what I feel is needed for a fresher.
Fine. And Vikram, there is also a very wrong notion or misconception, I would say, that people from finance or non-commerce background, they really find it hard to crack RBI. But every year I find a lot of people, I think there are a lot of people, even more than people from any other stream, those who are engineers who are clearing this exam, and they do not have any finance background. So what is your take on that? I mean, is it very easy to compete with people from the finance background when it comes to RBI?
Yes, sir. I like, even I have a lot of friends in my preparation circle who have this notion that RBI and SEBI are only for people with technical background. That is not so, because they recruit generalists also. It's just that there are a few subjects or topics that one needs to cover, and that needs a dedicated preparation. That's it. With the help of right material and right preparation, anyone can crack it. They did not have to be from any particular background.
And another wrong notion or misconception is regarding the gap years. So I already talked in brief about that, but I want to listen about your view on the gap years. So is gap years, you think, is something negative, or even if it is negative, is the interview panel totally averse to people with gap years? And how one can handle that situation? How one can, justify or answer questions related to gap years in the interview?
Yes, sir. So when the board looks at your biodata, and the gap year is the most obvious thing that they notice. So I think they'll be curious to know what this person has been doing, or what his motivation, or what he wants to be in life. And if that candidate is able to justify it to the board that this gap is not because he or she is not capable of doing anything, that is why they are stuck in this, or they have they have been just doing this for the sake of let's say a better job because of job security or something, I don't think the board is going to buy it. But if the candidate is able to justify it in a way that is actually the reason why the candidate is preparing for this thing, because he or she wants to become a policymaker or a financial regulator, or let's say a civil servant, or any other government service or regulatory body service, then one must answer it honestly, and one must convey this sense of conviction that they really want to get into this job, and not just because they think that this job is like better than any other opportunity that is available in the market. So I think this is the most important thing that the candidate needs to keep in mind. Although the gap is like it can be a drawback if you're not able to justify it, but if you're able to justify it, then it paints a good picture of that candidate in the eyes of the interview panel, and that can add to your interview also.
So it's almost like answering any other question. You have to justify it. For example, even if you are a chartered accountant, then you need to justify that you have knowledge with respect to chartered accountant. They will ask you some question. So similarly, guys, if you're having gap years, they expect you to justify that, right? I mean, they are not averse to you when they're asking you why you are having gap years, but I think it's just it's very normal for somebody to ask that, okay, you're at 2010-12 pass out, and now it's 2021. Hey bro, what you were doing during these 9 years, right? Have you learned something? Were you serious even to try something? So if you can justify, I think it's more than enough. So please don't worry about this. Vikram is one such example. I think 9 years is huge. Nobody would have gap years more than 9 years. So there is nothing to worry, right? Some people do ask that I have 3 years, 5 years, 7 years gap years. So here is a guy with 9 gap years, but still he has been able to make it. So don't worry about that. Vikram, now let us move to the strategy for preparation, right? For phase 1 and phase 2. So when it comes to preparation, either phase 1 and phase 2, at a holistic level, what was your primary source? We will dig deep into the sources subject wise later, but what was your primary source at a holistic level?
Sir, overall, I followed EduTap for phase 2 and for phase 1 also, but I supplemented it with other materials as such. But I stuck to one source and I supplemented it with other source. That was my overall holistic source, I would say, for phase 1 and phase 2.
And that is your mantra also, that less sources, more revision.
Yes, sir. But not just one source, have at least 2, but not many. Yeah, not many.
Not many. Yeah. 1 or 2, not many.
Yeah, not many.
Now, when it comes to phase 1 preparation, quant and reasoning is one area where most of the people do struggle, especially the non-engineers one. But what's your take on quant and reasoning when the exam is on the difficult the level of difficulty is on a higher side? So how did you prepare, is it like following some standard books, or was it like more of a reverse engineering where you gave a lot of tests, analyzed your strengths and weaknesses, and worked upon those areas? What was your approach?
Yes, sir. As I come from engineering background, so like solving quant and reasoning is not that difficult for me. The only thing I had to work on was time. If there was no time constraint, I can solve those questions. But one needs to keep in mind the time. So to deal with that issue, one has to practice. Practice, use like take a lot of mock tests and try to improve your speed and accuracy. That has been my strategy. And for people who are not from engineering background or math background, for them, I think they need to follow the concepts also. I don't really know the source from where they have to follow, but yeah, like following understanding the concept is also very important. But for me, what has been the thing was I practiced a lot of mocks and I tried to like improve my speed. That's it.
So he said he didn't know about the sources, but I can tell you some just to make it complete end to end. So for quant, you can use book by Arun Sharma. For reasoning, there is a book by R.S. Agarwal. So if you want to do self preparation for quant and reasoning and you are new to them, then you can use these books. And what about GA? Now GA is very vast, and now it is having high weightage in the exam. So what was your plan with respect to GA preparation, and what were your sources for GA?
Yes, sir. GA is largely about current affairs, or at least I would say the large part of it is current affairs. So one must focus on the last 2 or 3 months of current affairs and do that very comprehensively. I would say like stick to one source of this current affairs, any magazine, reputed institutions magazine, and supplement it with any other material which is available in the market, and try to follow PIB announcements also. PIB announcements with respect to any new scheme or any other government related announcements, particularly in the last month or two. If you don't have time, at least do 1 month of PIB before the exam. And if you have time, do 2 or 3 months, but not more than 3 months. But yes, for GA, 3 months of current affairs is enough.
And what were your sources for GA?
My sources, I followed EduTap current affairs magazine, and I supplemented it on another current affairs magazine that is available in the market. But I stuck to only 2 sources, and I tried to do PIB this thing monthly. At least I did 2 months of PIB before the exam.
Any books you use for quant and reasoning for practice?
No, sir. As such, I didn't use any books. I used to have R.S. Agarwal's quant and reasoning wala books, because I also prepared for UPSC, and for CSAT, this was one of the books that is recommended. But this time I didn't follow any material as such. All I had to do was improve my speed, and the concepts and all, like I was I knew what the concepts were and how to apply them. It's just that I had to increase my speed. So I took a lot of mocks. That's it.
And how did you manage revision in GA? Because that is also one of the most challenging part. लोग पढ़ते रहते हैं, but exam में जाके they realize यार ये पढ़ा तो हुआ था, याद नहीं आ रहा है. So revision बहुत important है. कैसे करनी चाहिए revision?
See, what I did was I used to read PDFs of these current affairs magazines, and I used to highlight the important points. And when I used to revise them, I used to read only the highlighted parts, so that I can read the whole magazine, which is like 200 pages or 300 pages, in a quick manner. But I'd say if you have time, if you have like at least 3 months of time, start making short notes for GA, so that you are able to revise it before the exam, like 2 days or 3 days before the exam. That is when the pressure, or even 1 week before the exam, the pressure starts to kick in, and you will find that there is a lot to do, and you are not able to, and you don't have time to do everything. So if you have short notes, you will be able to do it in a quick way, and you will also feel confident, because the content also matters. If you're not confident, you will forget even things that you have read. Exactly. So I'd say do this, but what I did was like I used to highlight important points, and I used to revise them. That's it.
So जब आपने phase 1 exam दिया, exam was literally tough this year as compared to previous year exams.
Yes,
so
sir.
Did you feel any time in the exam कि यार ये attempt भी गया मेरा?
Yes, sir. I felt that way because after giving the exam, after coming out of the exam hall, I was not confident. Like how because my friends asked me, and I called my parents, and I was not confident enough to tell them that my exam was like this was a decent attempt. I was not sure, and when I checked my marks, uh, I cleared the reasoning cutoff by 0.25 marks.
What was
Although
your
I did
overall score in phase one?
overall, I scored 76.
76. That's pretty good. I mean, I cut over 65.
Yeah, but reasoning I scored 12.25. So this is even after like a lot of practice. So like I don't know, the exam is getting really difficult.
Yeah,
And I
actually,
think
that is the thing, na, ke the practice at home is different from the exam environment.
yes, yes.
That is where the difference comes, which people do not realize. घर पे वही है बैठ के हमने 10 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर लिए, थोड़ी टाइम लिमिट भी लगा ली. लोग मॉक टेस्ट में भी क्या करते हैं ना, if there is not a timer, sometimes people give mock test after it is actually scheduled. वो 5-10 मिनट ज्यादा ही ले लेते हैं अपने आप को सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए कि नहीं नहीं मेरा अच्छा गया है. तो वो एग्जाम एनवायरनमेंट का प्रेशर अलग है. यू नो इट्स योर फाइनल चांस, आइदर यू विल क्लियर इट और यू विल नॉट क्लियर इट. So I think that would have made a difference, that in spite of so much practice, you were just able to clear cutoff by 0.25.
Yeah. I think the level of difficulty of exam this year is way higher than like the previous years, and you could see the cutoff is like at an all-time low. So yeah,
it's almost half what was there in 2019.
Yes,
it was 122 and this time it was 166. Sorry, 65.
65 something. Yes, yes.
It's exactly kind of half. So that itself speaks volumes about the difficulty level of the exam. Anyway, let's move on to the phase 2 now. So now coming out of the phase 2, first of all, what according to you is the most scoring section? I mean, what should be given the topmost priority when you start your preparation for phase 1?
Yes, sir. Finance and management paper and English paper. These are the two most scoring sections, I'd say, in this exam, because ESI is very dynamic and you don't know what can be asked in the exam, or you can't be sure about what can be asked in the exam. So finance and management, I'd say, have short notes of like or whatever topics are there in the syllabus, and you revise them multiple times so that you are confident enough of the concepts and whatever like whatever topics are there, and what are the theories and what are the names of the thinkers, especially in the management section, because I think management, objective management, is the most scoring section, and the candidate must score as high as possible in that section. And yeah, when it comes to English is also scoring, provided you do the right kind of practice. English, I think a lot of people neglect because they think English is just essay or Pressy or something, which we know we can do, but it's all about scoring high. It's not just about attempting the paper or solving that question. So a lot of practice is needed for English. Yes, these two are the most scoring things. And
so many people who start with ESI static, so what we can say that is a wrong approach. You should first try to do FM and say descriptive English, and then you can focus on ESI static.
Yes. ESI static is not that big if you when you look at it from the perspective of the exam. Although it is there in the syllabus, but they won't ask more than 30% static part. So it's all about current affairs. So one must focus on that.
Exactly. Now, this year the exam pattern changed. It became descriptive, and suddenly it was a big change for many. And with this change, the rules of game has also changed, right? I mean, from objective to descriptive. Earlier, descriptive English used to be subjective, but it was like, "Ye thoda alag hai, isko baad mein dekh lenge." But now all the 3 exams are having descriptive component. So what are the challenges when one prepares for an exam, both from objective and descriptive point of view? Because in objective, it's more of a recognition. कि पढ़ लिया है, 4 options में से एक we will be able to choose. But in descriptive, it's more about recall, right? Malab, they will ask you that, okay, what are the criticism of Maslow and Herzberg theory? There, if you're not able to recall, I mean, you will not be able to write. तो एक सही बैलेंस कैसे रख सकते हैं while you are preparing the one subject both from objective and subjective perspective? क्या कुछ अलग करना होगा या बस एक ही तैयारी करो, उससे ही दोनों चीजें हो जाएंगी?
Yes, sir. One must write answers. That is the only thing. Only then you will know how much you are able to recall and how much you are able to apply. Although you read the same topic, same syllabus, if you are not able to recall it when you're writing an answer, then it doesn't make any sense. So that is what I did. I tried to, although I read the same thing, I did both objective tests as well as descriptive. I used to practice answers for both ESI topics and FM topics. I used to write answers, keeping the word limit and also timer in mind. Initially, I did not have timer, but then when the exam date got close, I had a timer also, and that is what I think is needed, sir.
Fine. And you talked about descriptive writing. What are the elements of writing a good answer, Vikram?
Yes, sir. Any candidate who's preparing for UPSC will know that an answer must have an introduction, a body, and conclusion. I think the same principle must be applied here also. An answer must have an introduction. If it is there's a key term, one must define that key term or explain that key term, and then if they ask about the features of that thing, they must explain it in the body, and then they must conclude it. But if the candidate feels that there is no time and they're running short of time and they have to finish the answer, at least write introduction and the body. Conclusion you may skip, but that is not suggestible. But if you don't have time, then you can do it. But introduction and body is the most important thing. Conclusion is also important, but if you don't have time, then what can we do?
And when one starts his preparation for phase 2, what is the first step he or she should do? I mean, some people suggest go for the syllabus, read it multiple times. Some people say go to the previous year papers. So what is your opinion? What is the first thing when one is starting fresh for phase 2? Because phase 2 is something don't know. Like for quant reasoning, many people know what can be asked. They have already prepared for many other exams. Phase 2 for some people is entirely new game altogether. तो क्या करना चाहिए सबसे पहले?
Yes, sir. Because this year the pattern has changed and there is no precedent. So we have only one question paper that is like there for candidates who are preparing for upcoming years. So I would say they should start with FM and they should go through the previous year's objective questions of FM, and they should understand that what is being asked. Although there are a lot of topics and a lot can be asked, but there are a few things or few topics which which is focused, and they'll ask questions from that. So they must read those topics and read those concepts and cover them first, and then they should prepare a short notes on those topics. This is the most important thing when they start off with phase 2 preparation. I'd say do FM, go through previous papers and prepare short notes. That's the first thing they should do.
And after that, descriptive English and ESI. Anyways.
Yes, sir. After that, descriptive English and ESI. I'd say give more time to descriptive English because that is more scoring.
Okay.
Than ESI. ESI, more or less, everyone will score in that region only. But if you focus more on descriptive English, you will definitely score high.
We will talk about descriptive English also later. And what about the word limit, Vikram? Did you stick to the word limit? Were you able to write 600 words in the time limit?
Yes, sir. Like, to be honest, while I was writing answers or while I was practicing answers, I used to write more. I used to write like 700 words or 800 words. The challenge is to compress whatever you know regarding that topic in those 600 words or 400 words, whatever is the requirement of that question. You must not get carried away. You must not write too long an introduction or too huge a body and then write very small conclusion. It must be a proportionate answer. And the point of sticking to that word limit is that you will be able to write balanced answers for all questions. And that shows to the examiner that you have a balanced approach to the exam rather than focusing writing 1 or 2 good answers and then bad answers after that. You will not be scoring high. It should be a balanced thing. So I think sticking to the word limit is for the benefit of the candidate only.
Now let's move on to the FM part. So in FM, again, I mean, FM is pretty big in itself. There are 2 subjects like finance and management. So which one is more scoring in your opinion?
Both are equally scoring, I'd say, but objective part of management is very easy to score because there is static syllabus and we know what can be asked. There are few topics and questions will come from those areas only. So if you are able to do those topics properly, you can score high in objective management. And finance, descriptive finance, I'd say is more scoring because descriptive management is a little more subjective, but descriptive finance is if you know the topic, and if you have the features or of that like whatever is asked, and you can easily write a good answer in that word limit, and you can score high. So I'd say objective management and descriptive finance, this is the more scoring part.
And what about numerical in FM? What is their relevance now in this changing pattern?
I'm not quite sure if they'll ask any numericals, because we have only like 50 marks objective, and 30 questions can be asked. So I don't think they'll ask any numericals, but one must be aware of the concepts, but not stress too much about it. There are few concepts from which numericals can be asked. One must be aware of them, because you cannot leave anything to chance. Like go through them, but don't stress too much about it. That's it.
That's a very good point. Do not leave them completely, but you can just go through them, at least learn about the formulas, how do they work, and don't be stressed about them. I mean, that should be somewhere low on your priority list when it comes to practice and all, but at least just know the formula. So that's a very good suggestion. Now, moving on to the importance of current affairs in FM. First is, did you read RBI notifications?
I have not gone through RBI website as such, but I used to follow RBI notifications for summary, which was updated on EduTab, the material. They used to update like last few.
Yeah, Vikram, carry on.
Yeah, so last few months ka notifications I used to update. So I used to go through them, important notifications, and what is the like important point in that notification. Let's say there's a year in which that scheme has started, or if there is any fact or figure that must be remembered. I used to focus on them, but not through the RBI website, but only through summaries. That is what I was trying to say.
And did you read FAQs on the RBI website, which is again now a lot of people suggest that one should read FAQs. Did you read them?
No, sir, I have not gone through FAQs. I have not read that. Even for the interview, I have not done that.
Okay, you've not done that even for the interview.
No.
And what about RBI annual report? That is also something which is now everybody is reading for the preparation. Did you read it?
Yes, sir. For the interview, I did read the annual report. I did it like quite thoroughly. But for the phase two, of course, it was not there, so I didn't read it. The last year's annual report, I did not do it because it was quite old by then. Yeah.
Right. So as per you, what we can gauge is that FM is mostly static, right? I mean, current affairs does not hold that importance in FM. What about ESI? In ESI, the game is completely different altogether. It is more current affairs oriented. Even the questions that are asked, I mean, you can write them better if you are aware of the current affairs. You can put some schemes and factual data. So how can one prepare for ESI? What should be the approach? Does he or she needs to first read the ESI static? If yes, how much time to give there? Then how to focus on the current affairs? Can you just give a brief overview of that?
Yes, sir. ESI is actually very vast and very dynamic. So if you, because I come from a UPSC background and I had sociology as optional, I did not focus much on social issues, the static part of social issues. I focused on the current affairs. But generally, I would say that people must start off with current affairs, any reputed magazine, follow the ESI section, and relate that with topics which are there in the syllabus. And then you should read that and supplement the same thing by going through in PIB notifications. PIB is a very important source to follow. Any current affairs magazine, any reputed institute, that is fine, but you have to supplement it with PIB. That is the most important thing, and that is what I did. I used to follow PIB notifications and update that in my whatever notes I had, the ESI current affairs.
He's stressing again and again on PIB, so please go through that, right? Now in ESI, when it comes to current affairs, what are the areas one should look upon, or one should segregate his preparation for current affairs, as in reports, schemes, news? So did you do some segregation of that sort while you were preparing for ESI current affairs?
Yes, sir. Because this year the exam was in April and the budget was just passed, budget and economic survey. So that became the most important. Those became most important topics for current affairs in ESI. So budget and economic survey, those two documents are important. You can do the whole thing, but I would say focus on summary. Whatever important things are there, that is enough. And if possible, make short notes. Apart from budget and survey, we have government schemes, a lot of government schemes. Focus more on schemes which have been announced recently, and do those government schemes from any government schemes magazine that is available, but supplement it with PIB. Whatever is there in the PIB, sometimes there will be announcements made by ministers in parliament, and that will be updated. So that is also important. Any announcement by a minister related to a particular government scheme, then that scheme becomes important for the exam. So we must focus on those. So any magazine supplemented with PIB, that is what I'd say is important
for schemes.
Government schemes.
And for reports, like there can be reports like from World Bank, UNESCO, IMF. So from where to read them?
I don't think like you have to do from the original source, because that is not possible. Any candidate will not be able to do it. From the ESA magazine itself, whatever magazine you're following, you like highlight if there's any like report or scheme by such reputed organization, national, international, there's an Niti Aayog report or World Bank report or IMF report. Just keep in mind who publishes that report and what are the important things, and yeah, that's it.
Fine. Now moving on to the descriptive English part, Vikram. So in descriptive English, again, there is a lot of confusion among candidates, as in how to attempt the paper, in what order one should attempt, and what should be the time that should be distributed among the different sections. So what was your strategy with respect to that?
Yes, sir. This time I did essay first, and Pressy and RC. That was my order, because essay had 40 marks and then 30.
So attempting essay first, the reason was that it has more weightage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the examiner also reads your essay first when he or she opens your exam, question paper, answer paper. So if you write a good essay first, then it will make a good impression about you. And after that, you can focus on RC and Pressy.
Okay. And what was the time that you divided among these three sections?
Yes, sir. I think I tried to finish off essay in 30 minutes. Previously, I wrote this SEBI exam that actually helped me a lot, because in SEBI there was another section also. There were 4 sections, and we had the same time, 90 minutes. But in the RBI exam, we had only 3 sections. So time was not an issue for me. I was able to finish the paper within each sections also. I was able to finish it off within the time that I wanted to. And I was able to revise also. So I'd say 30 minutes for essay and 20 for RC and Pressy. That is like enough. After that, you'll have time to revise each section also. That's it.
So when you talk about revision in the descriptive part, so how can one revise? Is it more about grammatical or spelling mistake, or is it also about the flow at that time?
It is about both, sir. You must not make any spelling mistake or grammatical error. You don't have to write like really flowery language or something, but whatever you write, the basic English that we use in writing answers, that must be correct, and there must be a proper flow, because that is what matters. That is what they see. Even if you don't have enough content for a topic in writing an essay, it is not so much about the content. It is about how you structure whatever content you have and make a presentable essay. It is about the language. That's it. That is more important.
Right. And how to prepare for essays? I mean, which can be asked in the exam. Can there be any prospective list? So had you something of that kind in your preparation?
Yes, sir. Like while I was preparing for SEBI exam only, I started doing this. Like you can find model questions for essays, like model topics, and you can start writing essays on that. It's all about structuring the content that we have, because when we study for ESI and when we study for FM, we study a lot of current affairs, and many aspirants also read the newspaper. So content is not a problem. It is all about structuring that content in those word limits and in the time. So it's all about practice, I'd say.
And what were your sources for FM?
My sources were like, I followed EduTab material, and I supplemented it with another source that I followed, another current coaching material. But I had a short notes of EduTab's material. My friend had prepared that, and both of us, we followed that thing only. That came in handy because that helps in revision. It's all about revision. So I followed that, and I supplemented it with other material. That's it.
And for ESI?
For ESI, I had not prepared any short notes. I followed the same strategy as I did for GA. Like, I used to follow those current affairs magazines and I used to highlight. But whenever I feel like there's any point from PIB or any government ministry, I used to write it down. That's it.
That's. And now let's come to the interview phase, last stage, but the most crucial and the difficult stage, which most of the aspirants tell me. So in the interview phase, Vikram, how was your interview first of all? Was it a very cordial interview?
Yes, sir. It was quite cordial. My last interview, the chairman sir grilled me a lot. The same chairman sir. But this time he was quite cordial. I don't know. Maybe I was fortunate enough. Yeah, it was quite cordial this time.
And what was the duration of the interview?
I'm not quite sure, but it felt very short. But I said 12 minutes.
Short but sweet.
Interview, that's it.
And did you read any transcripts before the interview?
Yes, sir. I read a lot of transcripts, and that actually, scared me because the board members, they asked questions on topics which were like, and which many of those topics, although I knew, I tried to answer it by myself. As in, like, I used to imagine that the board has posed that question to me, and how would I answer that question. It became like very difficult and very stressful. But I realized that that question is specific to that candidate. It is based on that candidate's profile or whatever answer that candidate has given, and based on that they follow up those questions. So I'd say interview is largely about the candidate's profile. Whatever you read, it is all about your profile. They'll ask from your profile, and based on what you answer, they'll follow it up. That's it.
So that is the feedback I'm getting from most of the people, that interview transcripts might give a general idea, but there is no point in trying to answer every question which is there in the interview transcripts, because that will demotivate you. And those questions are meant for those particular people, right, who have something different on their biodata, or maybe those questions were asked as a follow-up to their answers to the previous questions. So please do not worry if you are not able to answer those questions. Maybe those will never be asked to you. Now, coming on to the biodata, you said that interview is about you, your personality. So I think there the role of biodata comes in, because otherwise you are just a roll number for them. It is through your biodata that they will get to know you. They will at least be able to know who are you, and then they will try to further grill you or further know about you. So what is the importance of biodata here?
It is the most important thing, sir. You have to be very confident about whatever you've written in that, whether it is your graduation or where you're from or where you've worked, and whatever like other things that you have done, whatever your hobbies are. You must be very thorough about that. You cannot have a thing written in your biodata and not have a decent answer for that. That will pull your marks down. Any other thing, if you're not able to answer that, I don't think matters so much. But yes, whatever is in the biodata is the most important thing, I'd say.
And what are the areas one should prepare in an interview? Like HR, current affairs, these. What are those areas?
Yes, sir. Whatever current affairs. For current affairs, one can just read newspapers. One general newspaper.
Which newspaper?
Hindu or Indian Express. I used to read Hindu, and I used to actually, while preparing for interview, I used to read 5 newspapers, because I was like very scared about what they're going to ask me, because I did not have a strong profile. All I could do was impress the board with my knowledge or conceptual understanding. So I used to do 5 business newspapers, but that is not required. One can do just one newspaper and one general newspaper and one business newspaper, any like either business standard or live mint or business line or any other thing. These are two most important things.
No, so one is current affairs. Another area that one needs to prepare for interview.
Yes, and RBI website.
RBI
whatever notifications or updates that RBI brings out is important, because one must have a very good understanding about the organization. And in that regard, I'd say mock interviews help me a lot, because the ex-RBI officers took those mocks and they told me that whatever is being updated in RBI website and whatever sections are there in the RBI website, that one must be thorough with. And I did that. Like website I used to follow regularly every day, and sections also I used to follow every day. So these are the most important things: RBI website and current affairs newspapers.
And what is the importance of mock interview?
It's I would say like the most important thing while preparing for interview, because only then you will know where you stand, how you're able to answer questions, how you're presenting yourself to a senior, an expert who wants to know if this candidate is like really good enough for RBI. So our mock interviews are very important.
And what did they ask you in the interview? Few sample questions.
Yes, sir. The first question was about the gap only. The chairman sir asked me like, as soon as I entered the room, he was all smiling, looking at my biodata, and he asked me that, okay, you have a gap of almost 10 years, and I'm sure you would have prepared some answer for this. So we like to know what your answer is. And I told them that I was always interested in working in the public sector. I wanted to be a policy maker, and that is why I've been constantly trying for this. And that for that answer, the follow-up was what RBI did, or what policies did RBI make in the last 3 years, which according to you is the most important ones. Name 3 important things. So I answered that, because this question is not related to RBI as such. This question is related to my profile and what I said, because I said that I wanted to be a policymaker. So he asked me, what are the 3 most important things which RBI did in the last few years you think are is most important? So it doesn't matter if I had actually listed those things. It's just that if I had the ability to analyze those things in such a way that I would give him 3 points, 1, 2, 3. So I did. I told them about the monetary policy easing. I told them about steps RBI has taken to promote financial inclusion. And I also told about what RBI has done to improve the health of the banking sector. These are 3 things I said. If I would have said any other 3 things also, I don't think it would have mattered so much. It's all about how I am able to analyze a particular thing or a topic and present him with 3 points in a structured way. That's what I felt.
And any other questions which are not worth sharing here that were asked in the interview?
Yes, sir. All the questions were a follow-up to my previous question. So I had mentioned financial inclusion, and another member asked me what steps RBI has taken to promote financial inclusion. So I talked about a lot of things. I also talked about the recent national strategy for financial inclusion and financial education. And another follow-up question, and whatever questions were asked were follow-up questions to these questions only. So I think I was asked only 4 or 5 questions, and each question was a follow-up to the previous question.
कई बार इंटरव्यू में ऐसा होता है कि क्वेश्चन सुन के ही लगता है कि वाह ये तो मैं उड़ा दूंगा. जैसे फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन पूछा तो मतलब बहुत पड़ा हुआ है सर. आप बस आप सुनो, नेशनल फाइनेंशियल स्ट्रेटजी, फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन, ये वो, मतलब उसको पता लग जाता है. बेसिकली दे गेट एन आइडिया कि इसको ये पता है.
Yes, one member asked it, another member asked me about monetary policy stance. What is a monetary policy stance? Because I had mentioned that in my first question only. The first point was that only. Change the
monetary policy stance means hawkish or something like that, right?
What is it? And what are the changes that were made recently? And I think that is it. So 3 or 4 questions were asked, and they said, okay, thank you.
You're selected.
They didn't say that.
Well, coming out of an interview, you never know, right? How did it go? I mean, I've heard nobody saying that, no, or very less people saying that I was totally satisfied with my interview. So it's a very mixed
Yes,
feeling.
sir.
You always feel that maybe I could have done better. Otherwise, if you do better, then also you have apprehensions कि यार इतना छोटा क्यों चला?
Yes, sir.
उसने तो कुछ पूछा नहीं. But anyways,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One member has not asked me any question, so I was like kind of skeptical. Why this member has not asked me any question? Is she not interested in me, or does she think that I'm not good enough for RBI? That feeling was there, but then I somehow like digested that.
अब एक बार सिलेक्शन हो गया तो वही है ना कि all that ends well, तो सब भूल जाते हैं कि क्या था. बट एनीवेज बहुत अच्छा लगा विक्रम आपसे बात करके. बहुत लाइवली पर्सनालिटी है आप. ठीक है.
Thank you, sir.
तो बिफोर वी साइन ऑफ कोई मैसेज देना चाहेंगे आप हमारे व्यूअर्स को जो आपको चैनल पे देखेंगे?
Yes, sir. Like because at the end of the day, this is an exam, and an exam needs practice. No matter how much you read, if you're not revising whatever you have read, and if you're not practicing, whether by giving mock tests or like whether by giving mock interviews, it is not going to help. And one must do dedicated preparation. One must be really focused, and they must know why they want to do this. Only then they will be able to give that kind of commitment, and they will be able to justify that if they face an interview. I think this is what I'd like to say.
Lovely message. तो थोड़ा प्रैक्टिकल होके प्रिपरेशन करनी पड़ेगी. यही मैसेज है विक्रम का. इट्स नॉट अबाउट के पढ़े जा रहे हैं. यू हैव टू प्रैक्टिस अ लॉट. रिवीजन बहुत करनी पड़ेगी. ठीक है. बिकॉज एंड ऑफ द डे इट्स ऑल अबाउट कि आपकी शायद 500,000 घंटे की प्रिपरेशन, यू हैव टू give your maximum output in those 5 hours. तो उसके लिए बहुत ज्यादा प्रैक्टिस, बहुत ज्यादा रिवीजन चाहिए. Everything should be top of your mind so that you need not waste time there recalling something. Well, Vikram, I wish you best of luck once again for your future career in RBI. It's indeed going to be a very interesting journey with one of the most reputed organizations of India. I remember I met one IAS long back, 3 years back. She was a lady. So she told me that she once had a chance to visit RBI office, and she was like, wow, I mean, this is the way you work. So that still is there in my mind, the words she told me, and her face expressions could tell me that that yes, RBI is something different. So I think you have made it to a very right place. Now you have to live up to the expectations of that organization, right?
Yes, sir. I still think, sir, like when I went to give my first interview in Chennai, I went to Chennai office of RBI, and I was totally in awe of RBI as such, because until then we just know what RBI is from outside. But once you enter that building, once you are inside that organization, you will want to be there even more, and you will try to do everything in your capacity. And yes, it is an amazing feeling. Seriously, being inside RBI.
Correct. So I hope that you will be able to make some difference here. At least try to do something which you are known for that thing, because you are going to spend next 30 years there, which is not a small time.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so I wish you best of luck, and I hope to meet you sometime. Right?
Definitely, sir.
Okay. Bye, Vikram. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Bye.